Hello, everyone. My name is Kornélia, and in the next few minutes, I'm trying to summarize the main points of my article entitled Emerging Postdramatic Aesthetics and Shakespeare in Hungarian Theatre. And as the title suggests, the article focuses on postdramatic Shakespeares and especially how they altered certain schemes of interpretation and reception within the Central European geopolitical region. And on the one hand, I examined audience responses to these productions, as well as the production's relation to certain existing theatre traditions, most notably realism. And it seems that a new relation of visuality, performativity, and textuality emerged in these productions, which played with the various modes of perception attached to media societies. And media society is one of the most important keywords in this article. Postdramatic theatre in general is examined through Hans Thies Lehmann's theoretical matrix, as well as critical readings of it, such as the ruinous nature of postdramatic text, as suggested by Teresa Kovács. And I also try to offer an interpretation where the postdramatic and the dramatic are seen on a scale rather than in a mere binary opposition. And for me, postdramatic theatre is especially interesting as a specific mode of perceiving reality through various medial genres, conventions, and representations. But I also think that we should address the problem of regional differences when it comes to contemporary postdramatic productions. And it is crucial to see that in Western European and especially German-speaking theaters, the rise of post-dramatic aesthetics, and including Shakespeare productions, certainly, after the 1970s, generated interpretative schemes and strategies which were more open to fragmented and fractured productions. And as a consequence, audiences, including general spectators and critics, had both more time and opportunity to encounter postdramatic aesthetics, which questioned the primacy of word-based text. And I also offered in the article some examples regarding Western European postdramatic Shakespeares by the collectives Societas Raffaello Sanzio and Shishi Pop, and also by the director Thomas Ostermeyer. If you think about the regional differences, especially regarding audience responses and critical responses to this production, it seems that the dominance of drama-based realism and its interpretative conventions in pre-89 Central European theaters resulted in a lack of trying out alternative interpretations of Shakespearean texts. And as a consequence, a number of recent postdramatic initiatives still have not been able to enter into mainstream theatre practice or become recognized by critics. So I do think that there is a connection between the drama-based realism and its conventions in terms of interpretation within Central Europe, within Hungarian theatre, and the uneasiness of handling these post-dramatic Shakespeares in contemporary theatre. And in the article from relatively recent Hungarian theatre practice, I offer two case studies of staging Romeo and Juliet, one from the year 1996 by Moving House Company under the title Romeo and Juliet, and one from 2019 by Örkény Theatre under the title The Shakespeare Wash of Kertész Street. And let's see the first one, because these two productions represent different set of post-dramatic strategies in terms of textual and theatrical methods, and therefore I found it really beneficial to compare these two productions and to see what types of post-dramatic Shakespeares we could encounter within Hungarian theatre. And if we look at the first one, the Moving House Companies, or in Hungarian, Mozgóház Társulás's production, actually it was one of the earliest pieces by the group, which at this time consisted of young actors and the director László Hudi, who was an important figure in Hungarian independent theatre in the 80s. And the group in this production handled Shakespeare's drama in an experimental, unique, and energetic way. Yet the critical reception was not at all positive. And here the text Romeo and Juliet represented a common source of knowledge, a common basis for cultural understanding, as well as for further dialogues. And consequently, this show offered a number of medial and performative layers, integrating sequences of dialogues, monologues, dances, songs from the 60s and 70s. And the topic was about how love could be spoken, represented, and staged according to various European traditions. And these scenes, these rather revue-style production, presented many couples enacting many Romeos and many Juliets, posing questions of love and death, male and female gender stereotypes, as well as physical and emotional intimacy. And the production offered the possibility to rethink perception itself, and thus imagine a radically recharged agency of the human self, actor and spectator alike. So I think that's how this production could be productively interpreted. And if you look at the other production, the Shakespeare Wash of Cathay Street, which was based on an adaptation by poet and playwright Peter Zavada, who rewrote Romeo and Juliet by relocating the story to contemporary Hungarian reality. And as a result, the two families appeared as rival criminals in the 7th district of Budapest, using a car wash for washing cars and money laundering as well. And the young lovers, perhaps not surprisingly, met at a psychedelic party. Romeo was suffering from drug addiction, and Juliet stood in the shadow of a forced marriage. And this is the story which met Bodo's, the director Victor Bodo's unique theatrical language, which integrated associative improvisations, multi-perspectivity, and a use of pop culture quotations, as well as technological media representations. And the stage represented a chaotic labyrinth, I would say, perceived by an extended surreal state of the mind, where the vast number of unexpected elements basically ruined the possibility of a unified, coherent, and strict dramaturgy. And it is very familiar in Victor Bodo's theater, so the way of handling these material, the ways of representing these chaos on stage. Yet here the critical reception was more mixed, so not entirely negative, which represented the earliest productions by Bodo. But here I could see a change in ways of interpretation, and probably it had something to do with the almost 3 decades of so the number of post-dramatic productions grew basically in Hungarian theatre. So, and I would like to mention 2 further directions that would be really beneficial to continue with. The one is examining other post-dramatic Shakespeares in Hungarian theatre, and here I'm thinking about Daniel D. Kovács's productions or Attila Vignyánszky Jr.'s productions. They're both directors. and their theatrical language resemble a little bit Victor Bodo's, and also Hop Art Company had a very interesting adaptation of Coriolanus as well. And the other direction that would be really interesting is to examine post-dramatic Shakespeare's within the region. And I do think that my fine colleagues within this research group had already presented a number of very interesting examples. So doing this would offer a chance to find a net of maybe similar post-dramatic strategies regarding theater aesthetics across the borders. So thank you very much for listening.